Let's turn now to breaking news. We've got a live look at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, where you're seeing former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, he is in the building now, we understand, touring the stage area ahead of his big primetime speech tomorrow night. You may remember this happened yesterday. Around this time, we saw J.D. Vance touring the area because he's speaking tonight. Now we've got the president, former president, touring it, looking around, getting his bearings as he prepares for that big speech. Joining us now from Milwaukee, NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. Vaughn, as we look at these live pictures, we have heard from the president in an interview that he drastically changed his speech for tomorrow night after the assassination attempt. What do we expect?
That's exactly right. I was talking with a senior advisor to Donald Trump just a bit ago here, and he told me that the country is in a state in which it has become a tinderbox, and they understood that coming off the attempted assassination in which the former president and Republican nominee was nearly killed, that they understood that this called for a moment in time where they needed to focus on the idea of unifying America. And I can tell you, per some reporting here this afternoon with a couple of our colleagues, that multiple sources tell us that other speakers who have spoken from this convention stage in the first 48 hours worked and sent their drafts of speeches to the Trump team, and they had edits that were sent back to them that toned down the rhetoric that was a part of their speech. We have not heard any comments about a stolen election or January 6th or any calls for retribution against any of the prosecutors who have brought charges against Donald Trump and any of his perceived political rivals like Liz Cheney or Mike Pence or Paul Ryan. None of that has been heard from this stage in the first 48 hours. Instead, it's been heavily focused on drawing contrast between what the Trump administration in 2025 could look like versus what the Biden administration has looked like for 3.5 years. And you're looking at Donald Trump on stage there with that bandage on the right side of his head right now. When he walked out 2 nights ago to this convention arena floor to take his seat, it was the first time he had been seen publicly since Saturday night when he was shot in Pennsylvania. And he came back last night, and this was for Donald Trump almost a folk hero type of a moment. He has faced 4 criminal indictments. He's been found guilty. He and his family business were fined $350 million this year. Essentially every facet of his life, legally, his family corporation. He's been impeached twice, and yet Donald Trump is still here, and he's ahead in the polls against Joe Biden in the key battleground states just 3.5 months from the general election. You add on top of that the fact that there was a gunman from 150 yards away at a Trump rally with thousands in attendance in which he was shot on stage, blood on his face. And just 36 hours later, he was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the convention. The delegates were already here awaiting his arrival, and now you see him on stage. Kate and Zinkley, he is going to be taking that podium that he just stood behind on Thursday night, tomorrow night, when he formally accepts the nomination of his party for the 3rd time. Of course, his running mate, J.D. Vance, is set to take and make his nomination acceptance speech tonight before the American population that is going to be tuned in on every channel. For J.D. Vance, he is half the age of Donald Trump, the former president. He's just 39 years old. This is going to be a moment for them to also strike a generational difference here, that MAGA is more than just Donald Trump and the Trump family, but it is a part of the Republican Party that is here to stay, and that the idea of an America First agenda is one in which the U.S. resources should be focused here domestically, as opposed, for example, sending additional aid to Ukraine, something that J.D. Vance has fought against in his time in Congress over the last 18 months, and that Donald Trump has suggested that he is open to as well. And so this is a moment here you're watching on stage in which Donald Trump, every single speaker, goes through this process here before the delegates are let in to essentially see what the staging is like, where the teleprompters are, and get kind of a grasp of what they can expect when they take the convention stage. And Donald Trump, I was talking to that senior advisor earlier, and he told me that he had that message to the rest of the convention and his team, that he wanted to focus on that unified message. And so far, we have seen it here the first 2 nights of the convention. We will wait to see what that re-workshopped, rewritten speech, though, looks like from him tomorrow night in primetime.
Yeah, and Vaughn, we want to spend more time with you. For any viewers just tuning in right now, we're watching former President Donald Trump tour the stage ahead of his Republican National Convention speech tomorrow. That's what you're seeing. Let's just take a moment and listen in.
To watch his former rival.
And Vaughn, you know, as we're seeing the former president, you mentioned, of course, the bandage on his ear. It can't be overstated how closely all these events happened, right? This attempted assassination, then the RNC, of course, the official nomination of J.D. Vance. I wonder, what's the tone you've been hearing inside the room from attendees? I saw some compelling images of folks attending the convention, actually wearing bandages in solidarity with former President Trump. I imagine the tone has really shifted, but just talk to us about what you've seen being on the ground there.
There were, several of the delegate attendees that were on the floor last night. They put their own version of bandages on the right side of their head in solidarity with Donald Trump. Let me tell you guys, I was actually on the airplane to Milwaukee when those shots rang out in Pennsylvania. The delegates, the more than 2,000 delegates, were already here. They had been here prior to the formal start for various meetings. And I can tell you there was a level of anxiety around not only what the convention could look like security-wise, but also what this country would look like. We have heard calls from people in this country, the idea of civil war and political violence being a means to the end. And there was a serious question marks. When you have a nominee for president shot in the head, how would that, what would that cause here in the United States of America? And I can tell you the vibe here on the floor the last two nights has been one that is much more enthusiastic and energized. Obviously, Donald Trump is here. He is standing here, and we do not understand exactly. We have still not been given a clear readout on whether he's feeling pain in his ear, exactly how much of his ear was frankly shot off. There is a lot of still question marks exactly about how his health is, how he is taking this all emotionally. His team says that he is strong, that he is confident, but I can tell you here that this is a party that had Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, one-time rivals of his, come to his defense last night. I could say this is a unified Republican Party among those that are at least here in the building today.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.